Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, brothers and sisters. We take a revisit of a past upload on the recurrent circuit consisting of a battery, resistors, and a capacitor. How do we apply Ohm's law and the relationships of capacitance, charge, and electric potential in computing the EMF of the battery? Join me till the end of this video. Watch and learn. Here is the problem. Consider the circuit shown in figure 1. The EMF source has negligible internal resistance. The resistors have resistances R1 equal to 6.00 ohms and R2 equal to 4.00 ohms. The capacitor has capacitance big C equal to 9.00 millifarad. When the capacitor is fully charged, the magnitude of the charge on its plates is big Q equals 36.0 millicoulomb. The question is, calculate the electromotive force epsilon. We are given uh, the resistances of the two resistors R1 and R2, right? So R1 has a resistance of 6.00 ohms, while R2 has 4.00 ohms. Likewise, the fully charged capacitor has its capacitance, big C, equal to 9.00 millifarad, and a charge big Q equal to 36.0 millicoulomb. And our target variable is the electromotive force, denoted by the Greek letter epsilon, of the battery, right? Or the energy source, which we assume has negligible internal resistance. Starting with our computations, we recall the meaning or operational definition of capacitance, right? Capacitance, big C, is just equal to big Q over V sub C. This means that the capacitance is just a measure of the ratio of the amount of charge stored in the capacitor per potential or voltage across the capacitor. Now, supposing we double the amount of electric potential across the capacitor and keep the amount of charge big Q constant. Okay, what will happen to the amount of capacitance big C? Will it decrease by half? The answer is no. The reason is doubling the amount of electric potential across the capacitor will also cause the amount of stored charge big Q to double. So, as you can see, the factor 2 in the numerator gets cancelled by the factor 2 in the denominator, leaving behind the same amount of capacitance. In other words, the capacitance remains constant, unaffected by any change in big Q or big V sub C. What then are the factors that may affect the amount of capacitance? So in the conceptual definition of capacitance, we have here this formula or equation. Big C is equal to the product of a constant kappa, the electric constant eta naught, multiplied by the area of one charge plate, just one charge plate, and then divided by the separation distance, small d, right? This constant, also known as the dielectric constant kappa, is actually a ratio of two uh, capacitances. The one in the numerator represents the capacitance of a capacitor with a dielectric or an insulating material placed between the two charge plates, while the one in the denominator is the capacitance of the same capacitor but without an, a dielectric. In other words, the capacitor is just uh, placed in a vacuum. All right. So the two capacitances have the same unit, so it gets cancelled. All right. Meaning the constant kappa or the dielectric constant kappa is a unitless number. But its value ranges from 1.00, okay, if there is no dielectric use, okay, between the two charge plates. But if there is a dielectric made of an insulating material, then the value of kappa is higher than 1.00. For example, in this table, the dielectric constant or kappa for air is equal to 1.0006, which is practically the same as that of kappa in a vacuum. So these materials are used as dielectrics with relatively low dielectric constant kappa. Since our goal is to compute the electric potential across the capacitor, denoted by capital B sub C, right? We isolate that from the original equation, right? And get B sub C equal to big Q divided by big C. Or, as applied in our example, the potential across the capacitor V sub C is equal to 36.0 times 10 raised to the negative 3 coulomb. This is the same as 36.0 millicoulomb given in the problem. And that is divided by the amount of capacitance given in the problem, 9.00 millifarad, or 9.00 times 10 raised to the negative 3 farad. So when you do our math, we get the value of B sub C equal to 4.00 volts in three significant figures. And as given or shown in figure 1, we can see that the capacitor is connected parallel to the resistor R1. So that makes the voltage or potential across the capacitor equal or the same as the voltage drop across the resistor R1. Okay, that is B sub 1 is just equal to B sub C, which is 4.00 volts in three significant figures. Since you already have computed the voltage drop across resistor R1, okay, we can now proceed computing the current through the resistor R1. That is, I sub 1 is equal to the voltage V sub 1 divided by the given resistance R1. That is based from Ohm's law. So substituting I sub 1 equals 4.00 volts divided by R1, which is 6.00 ohms. So we get the amount of the current I sub 1 equal to 0.667 amperes, also rounded to three significant figures. So this is the current through uh, the resistor R1. Okay? And believe you me, this current is also equal to I sub 2, the current through the resistor R2. Why is this so? All right. Um, at the instant when the capacitor is already fully charged, right? It has stored the maximum amount of charge, big Q. So practically, there will be no current. Okay, there will be no current uh, through this part of the circuit or passing through the capacitor anymore. It is as if this part of the circuit or the component that connects the capacitor uh, to R1, okay, it seems that it gets a maximum amount of resistance. So the tendency for the current that is generated by the battery, if we are to trace the path of the current, right, using our convention, uh, positive to the negative terminal of the battery, we can imagine that the current passing through resistor R2, okay, will not move on or pass through the capacitor anymore because of its uh, extremely high resistance. Instead, the current, okay, continues to move and passes through the resistor R1. All right, does that make sense? So it is as if the two resistors R1 and R2 are now connected in series. All right, so with the amount of current I sub 2 being equal to I sub 1, we can proceed in computing the voltage drop across the resistor R2. That is, V sub 2 equals I sub 2 times R sub 2 based on Ohm's law. So substituting, we get V sub 2 equal to 0.667 amperes multiplied by the amount of resistance R2, 4.00 ohms, which gives us the amount of the voltage drop or potential across the resistor R2 equal to 2.67 volts, also rounded to three significant figures. Finally, we now come to uh, the last step in our computations for us to be able to determine the target variable, which is the electromotive force epsilon of the battery. Okay, in as much as we already said that R1 and R2 are considered in series with each other, right? That is, their individual voltage drops B1 and B2 when added will just be equal to the total uh, electric potential across the battery, right? But since the battery is assumed to have negligible resistance or internal resistance, okay, we say that the EMF epsilon is just equal to the algebraic sum of V sub 1 and V sub 2. That is, epsilon is equal to 4.00 volts plus 2.67 volts. And our final answer, the electromotive force epsilon of the battery with negligible internal resistance equals 6.67 volts, rounded to 3 significant figures. Before we end, let us emphasize the key concepts that we applied in this lesson. Number one, the capacitance, big C, is the amount of charge stored in a given capacitor, that's big Q, per amount of potential across the capacitor, capital V. Number two, in a complete circuit with a capacitor connected parallel to a resistor, the voltage across the capacitor is equal to the voltage drop across the resistor. That is, V sub 1 equals V sub C. Thank you very much for your indulgence. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Alhamdulillah.